Hello everyone! In this lesson, we are going to create a brand new post type named program. A few examples of a program post would be math, biology, English. And we are also going to learn how to create a relationship between a certain program and a certain event. So for example, on the home page, here we see an event named Poetry Day, and you could imagine that we would want to associate that with the English program or major. Or the Science of Cats event, we would probably want to relate that to the biology program. And then once we've established that relationship between one post and another, then it's a piece of cake to create HTML links so visitors can hop back and forth between all of the related content. But first things first, before we worry about creating relationships, let's first go and create that brand new post type of program. So in your text editor, instead of your theme folder, I want you to open up the MU or must use plugins folder. And you'll remember we created a PHP file where we registered our event post type. And now that we've created one post type, it's very easy to create another. We can literally just copy and paste this code. Now we don't want to copy and paste the actual function itself. We're interested in the register post type function. So just select from the very beginning of that down to the ending semicolon down here. Copy that, and then just drop down a few lines. And to stay organized, we can add a PHP comment and maybe say program post type. And maybe right above this one, we can add a comment to stay organized and say event post type. Okay, but then down here for the new program post type, just paste in your clipboard. And now we can just go through and change a few key values. So this first value of event, let's change that to program, right? That will be the post type keyword. In terms of the features that we want to support, title and editor make sense, but I don't think programs will need an excerpt, so we can delete that. This line controls the URL slug for the archive that will show all programs. So let's change this from plural events to plural programs. Okay, the next thing we want to customize would be the labels values. So just change the plural name from events to programs. Add new item should be add new program. Edit program. All programs. Singular name, just program. And then for the menu icon, remember if you want to choose one yourself, you can always just Google for WordPress Dashicons. But in this case, I think one that will make sense is named Dashicons Awards. Okay, so that's all we need to do. So as soon as we save this, back in our WordPress admin, we now see this brand new item in our sidebar named Programs. So right now, let's go ahead and create maybe 3 or 4 dummy sample programs. So add new. Let's title this first one Math. Just paste in a bit of dummy lorem ipsum content. Let's go ahead and save that. Let's create another program post. So click Add New. Let's call this one Biology. Save it. And let's create one more. And I will name this one English. And now at the moment, if I try to use this permalink to preview or view this new post, we don't see any content, and up in the title for this tab, we see page not found. The problem here is that we just registered a new post type that uses a new URL or permalink structure. So all we need to do to fix things is tell WordPress to update its permalink system. So in the admin, hover over Settings towards the bottom of the sidebar, and then click on Permalinks. And as soon as we click Save Changes on this page, that will force WordPress to regenerate all of its permalinks, or URLs, and as soon as we refresh this example English program post, cool, we see English and the main content field. Now at the moment, we can see that this screen is using the generic blog post template, right? Because we can see a link here back to the blog home. So right now, this screen is being powered by single.php, But we probably want to go ahead and create a dedicated template file just for individual program posts. So in our text editor, we can forget about the must-use plugins folder for now. Let's switch back over to our theme folder, and let's go ahead and create a brand new file in the root of our theme folder. And let's name this new file single-program.php. Just to test things out, you can type 123, and if you refresh, you can see, cool, our English program page is indeed using that template file. So back in our text editor, instead of just 123, why don't we copy and paste the contents from single-event as a guide or a starting point? So jump into single event, and I'm just going to copy everything into my clipboard. And then back in the brand new single program, just paste it in. So if you scroll up to the top, the first thing we want to customize is the MetaBox div. So for example, instead of this link here saying Events Home, let's change it to All Programs, and then have it linked to the Program Archive screen. So here's the text that reads Events Home. Let's just change that to All Programs. And then here's the href, right? So that's where users will go when they click on the link. So currently it's get post type archive link. And then let's just change the argument from event to program. Cool, so let's save that. I'm on the English program page, but now I can click on this All Programs link to see a full listing of all of them. So English, biology, math. However, we can see that this screen is using the generic blog listing style. Right? This formatting and information makes sense for blog posts, but when it comes to programs, we don't care who they were posted by or the date that they were created on. Now, at the moment, this URL of /programs is being powered by the generic archive.php file. So why don't we create a new file that is only responsible for the programs archive? So back in our text editor, let's create a brand new file in our theme folder. Let's name it archive-program.php. You can always type hello world just as a test to see if that file is indeed powering the URL that you're hoping it does. And instead of typing things out from scratch, why don't we use archive event as a starting place? So jump into archive event PHP, copy everything into your clipboard. Back in the program archive, paste it in. Let's scroll up to the top. Let's change this large headline. So instead of saying all events, let's say all programs. And let's change the subtitle to there is something for everyone. Have a look around. Let's save that. Okay, looking good. But when it comes to actually formatting and displaying the programs, we definitely don't want to display them as events. I think in this case, we would just want a list with nothing but the title of each program. So back in our new archive program PHP file, here we see the while loop. Let's go ahead and delete the div, right, that's being output once for each item. So that begins here and ends here. Okay, so now we have a mostly empty while loop. And on this line, right after the post line, let's create an HTML list item. And then within that, let's create a link. And the text that people will click on should just be the title. So let's drop into PHP and say the title. Let's give the link element an href attribute. And we want to drop into PHP and call the permalink. Okay, now this line of code will be repeated once for each program, but when it comes to HTML, we probably want this list item to live within an unordered list. So right above this while loop PHP code, I'm actually going to delete this empty line here. Right above this block of PHP, let's open up an HTML unordered list tag, okay, and then right after this block of PHP, that's going to loop, let's close out the unordered list. Now, just in terms of styling and graphic design, why don't we give the unordered list a class of link-list and another class of min-list. This has nothing to do with functionality. It will just make things look nice with a bit of CSS. Okay, so let's save that and check out our new archive. Looks good. Next, let's go ahead and delete this text down here that is about events and not programs. So down at the very bottom of our new archive file, we can go ahead and delete this paragraph of text and also the HR horizontal rule element. Next, why don't we order the programs alphabetically? And let's also be sure to set the posts per page to -1. So even if we had 80 or 90 or 100 programs, they would all be listed on this one individual page. So to adjust this query, our first instinct might be to go into our archive file and right before the while loop, write a custom query. But we know that from previous lessons, if you're almost satisfied with the default URL-based query, you don't need to completely overwrite it with a brand new query. Instead, you can just subtly manipulate the default query. So let's go that route. To do that, instead of our template file, let's jump into our theme folder's functions.php. And down at the very bottom of this file, remember we created this function named University Adjust Queries. This is where we manipulated the event archive query, and you'll remember that we wrapped that entire bit of code in an if statement, so that we only manipulate the query if we are not in the backend admin, and we are on the event post type archive, and it's the main query. So in this case, if we want to manipulate the programs query, what we can do is just right above this if line, let's just create a new if statement. And in the parentheses for our conditions, let's begin with exclamation is admin. This function is admin will return true if you're in the backend admin portion of the website. And then we can check for the opposite of that with an exclamation in front of it. So this will only evaluate to true if we are on the front end of our website. Let's say and check for another condition. Let's say is post type archive, and for the argument, let's say program, right? Because that's our post type. Let's tack on one more condition check, and only if the query in question, so $query to access the query parameter, only if the current query in question, and look inside it, is main query. So that way we don't manipulate any secondary custom queries. We only want to manipulate the main default URL-based query. Okay, so now we've created the perfect condition check. So then within the body of this if statement, if we get back to the task at hand, remember we want to order this alphabetically, and we also want to overwrite the default post per page of 10 to infinity. So within our if statement, let's begin by looking inside the query object that WordPress will pass to our function. And let's call the set method. And let's start by targeting the order by parameter and set it to title so that they will be organized alphabetically by the title. Let's add a semicolon. Target the query object again, call the set method. Let's set order to be ascending instead of descending. Okay? And finally, let's target query one more time, call set, and let's say posts per page, and the default is 10, but instead let's set it to -1. So even if we have 100 programs, they will all be listed at once. So let's save that. Cool, looks good. So at this point, we've got the basics of our program post type up and running. We've got a list of programs, and if you click on one, here's a detail screen for just biology. Now let's try something interesting. Let's try to create a relationship between this biology program and the event. If I click on events, let's try to relate the Science of Cats event with the biology program. Let me show you what I mean. So if we go into our admin dashboard, and if we click on events in the sidebar, here is the Science of Cats post. And wouldn't it be nice if this event post had another custom field down here named related program, and then you could choose from all of the program posts, and that way, on the front end of the detail for the Science of Cats, we could have text down here that says related program, biology. And then you could click that to be taken to the biology program page. And then on each program page, we could have a section that says upcoming biology events or upcoming math events. Okay, but the key here is the custom field that we need to create that lets you pick which post you want to relate with the current post that you're editing. I realize everything I might have just said over the last minute or two might be hard to follow, but let me put it all into perspective for you. So follow along with me. Towards the bottom of our sidebar, let's click on Custom Fields. And let's go ahead and create a new field group. So add new. Let's title it Related Program. And then in terms of fields, we just need one field. So let's click this Add Field. Let's title it Related Program. And then maybe in parentheses S, meaning you can choose to relate it to more than one program if you want to. For the field name, why don't we get rid of the parentheses just so it's easier to remember and type? Okay, and now here's the really important part. For the field type option, we definitely do not want the default of text. So let's click on this field type, and if you look down a bit, you'll see an area called Relational, and underneath that section, let's click Relationship. Okay, we can leave the field instructions blank. We can leave required set to no. We can leave the return format to its default of post objects. But the next thing we do want to customize is the post type option. So when we edit an event post, this field is going to give us a giant list of a bunch of posts that we can choose from. Now we don't want to be able to choose from anything like posts and pages. We only want to be able to choose from the existing program posts. So for this post type, let's scroll down and click on Program. Okay, scroll down a little bit further. I think we can leave everything else set to the default option. Okay, so that's everything we need for that field, but let's scroll down a bit further because this location box is super important. So we see show this field group only if, and let's say if the post type is equal to, and then for this third field, let's change it to event. Right? If we're editing a generic blog post or page, we don't need to see this custom field to relate it to a program. So we're limiting it to just event posts. Now let's go ahead and scroll up and click Publish. Okay, now this is where things get fun. Let's go try to edit the Science of Cats event again. So Events, the Science of Cats. If we scroll down a bit, check out this new custom field. It's named Related Programs, and this left-hand column will let us choose between any and all program posts. At the moment, we just have the three, right? Biology, English, and math. So if I want to relate this post to biology, just click on it, and you can see that gets moved over to the right-hand column. So if I wanted to relate this post to multiple programs, you can just click on all of them. But obviously I don't want those, so I can click here to delete those. Okay, so I'm happy with this column. I only want to relate this event post to the biology program. And now I can go ahead and save this post. And now the question becomes, how do I use that custom field value on the front end of our website? Right, so on this, the Science of Cats detail screen, how would I output a bit of text down here that reads, this event is related to the biology program? Well, that's exactly what we're going to learn how to do in our next lesson. Let's keep it rolling, and I will see you then.